Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. It is week 17 in the NFL, and your 2-12-1 Detroit Lions are heading out to Seattle on the West Coast to take on the 5-10 Seattle Seahawks in their final away game of the season. The Seattle Seahawks are currently 5-10 in this 2021 NFL season, and after 9 years of winning seasons and after multiple years of competing for the division and competing for the NFC to represent them in the Super Bowl, the Seattle Seahawks will have their first losing season in just under a decade and will miss out on the NFC playoffs for the first time since 2017. Now, a large part of the Seattle Seahawks' problems this year have been injuries and coaching. The Seattle Seahawks lost their signal caller. They lost their top 10 quarterback in Russell Wilson with a middle finger injury where he missed 6 games this season, and I believe the Seahawks lost a majority, if not all, of those 6 contests that they played without Russell Wilson. Now, even if Russell Wilson was in the lineup for all 6 of those games, I don't believe that the outcome would have been all that different if you were the Seattle Seahawks, right? The coaching still had some problems. The offensive line still had issues. The defense was okay, but had a lot of issues as well. And I truly don't think this team, even with their top 10 quarterback in Russell Wilson, would have been competitive enough to win a majority of those games and to really be alive in the playoff race, especially considering how tough their division is, with the Rams eclipsing 10 wins and clinching a playoff spot last week, with the Cardinals being 1 win away from clinching their playoff spot and punching their ticket to the NFC playoff race. They have 10 wins on the season, and then the San Francisco 49ers are an 8-6 franchise team as well. So, their own division is going to be a really hard one to win, even if you are a really decent team. Even if you're a 500 caliber team in the NFC West, that might put you at the last spot in your division. And I think even if Russell Wilson was healthy for this entire season, I don't think the Seattle Seahawks were good enough, and I don't think they were coached well enough to truly contend for an NFC playoff spot. Now, offensively, they are really good in some areas, but they are very, very bad in other areas. They are an extremely conservative offense on the offensive side of the ball, which you can see from their lack of giveaways and their red zone percentage, but their lack of total offensive yardage and offensive points per game. Now, offensively, the Seattle Seahawks rank 28th in the NFL in offensive efficiency, only having 4,578 yards on the season this far. They rank 28th in total yardage in the NFL, which again kind of goes and plays into their conservative style of play, but because of their conservativeness, they are the second best teams in terms of giveaways, only giving the ball away 11 times on the season, being the second fewest giveaways in the NFL. Now, the Seahawks also rank 20th in points per game this season, averaging about 20.4 points per game, which is not a bad scoring offense, but is slightly below average. But you look at the third down conversions and the third down offense, and because they are so conservative, a lot of the time they aren't able to convert on those third downs, as they rank 32nd in the NFL, only converting third downs at a 33.7% of the time. And then when you look at the red zone, when they do get into the red zone, they are really efficient because they don't turn the ball over and they score often, ranking them as the 8th best red zone offense in the NFL, converting on points in the red zone at a 62.2%. As I mentioned, offensively, they are a very conservative team. If they do get in the red zone, they are probably going to score because they just don't turn the football over. But if you can force them into long drives, if you can force them into, second and long, third and long, even though they have Russell Wilson, even though they have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, they just simply are a too conservative offense and aren't being coached enough to get themselves out of that situation and to get themselves into, either fourth and manageable or fourth and short, or just to convert that third and long straight up to extend the drive and move the chains. Now, defensively, they are a little bit of a different defense. They are a very bend, don't break kind of defense, giving up a lot of yardage, but not getting a lot of takeaways, but also being very tough to score on, as they rank as the 7th best scoring defense in the entire NFL. Now, defensively, the Seattle Seahawks are a very bend, don't break defense, which again is kind of conservative when it comes to the coaching style of Pete Carroll and that defensive coordinator. The Seattle Seahawks rank 31st in the NFL in defensive yardage allowed, with 5,783 yards allowed so far this season, with 2 games left to go. They rank 27th in takeaways in the NFL, only having 14 turnovers forced in the entire NFL season. That is averaging less than 1 per game for the Seahawks defense. But despite the fact that they give up a lot of yardage and don't take away the football very often, they are a really good team when it comes to getting the defense or getting the opponent's offense off the field and not allowing a lot of points. They rank as the 7th best team in terms of points per game allowed, allowing just 20.5 points per game, which is only 0.1 points per game more than they score every single week, or what they average every single week. They are the 9th ranking third down defense in the NFL, only allowing third down conversions 37.8% of the time, and they are the 3rd best red zone team, only allowing points in the red zone 49.1% of the time. So they are a very bend, don't break style of defense. They allow you to get into the red zone, but they don't allow you to score. They don't take the football away, but they force you to take field goals, and they force you to, just not give them or not put a lot of points on the scoreboard so that their offense remains in the football game. And just on both sides of the ball, this Seattle Seahawks team is incredibly conservative, not willing to turn the ball over on offense, but not willing to be aggressive enough to take it away on defense, not really being huge, big play offense on the offensive side of the ball, and allowing a lot of yards on the defensive side of the ball. But when it gets to the red zone, they tighten up and they don't allow a lot of points. Very similarly to when the offense rarely gets to the red zone, they are very efficient and they do score a lot of points because they don't turn the football over and they are efficient in the red zone. Now, the Seahawks have been a very inconsistent team this season, whether Russell Wilson be playing or not. They have beaten the 9-6 Colts and they swept the 8-7 San Francisco 49ers, but just a couple weeks after, they would lose to the Chicago Bears, who only have 5 wins on the season. They'd also lose to the Saints and to the Washington football team in games that they very realistically should have won. In a lot of those games, especially the game versus the Saints and especially the games versus the Bears and the Washington football team, Russell Wilson was playing in that football game. He was recovered, he was healthy, and he was the starting quarterback. But despite playing teams like the Bears and Washington, they were not able to get victories against teams that they were very realistically able to defeat and improve their record on the season. Seattle Seahawks are great in some categories and atrocious in others. They rank top 10 in red zone defense and third down defense and points allowed per game, but they rank 32nd in third down conversion on offense and 31st in defensive yardage allowed. So they're great in some areas of the field and they are horrible in other areas of the field. And I think that's where the Detroit Lions can truly take advantage, is they need to, one, get to the red zone. They need to, put some big plays on the Seattle Seahawks defense, and they need to score outside the red zone. They need to get some big play touchdowns this week, because once you get to the Seahawks red zone, once you get, to their defensive end zone, and once you're trying to score from within the 20-yard line, the 12th man and the Seattle Seahawks defense is just very difficult to score on. So I think the Lions this week have to get those big chunk plays, which is something they haven't been very good at this year. But if the Lions want to put points up in Seattle, they have to get some chunk plays. They have to put up big yardage versus the Seattle Seahawks, and they have to score from 30, 40 yards out. They need to get big touchdowns from Amon-Ra St. Brown and Khalif Raymond. And maybe if DeAndre Swift is back, he breaks off a really big run to the end zone as well. But I don't think the Lions are going to have a great red zone day today or a great red zone game on Sunday because of the fact that, one, Seattle is so good in the red zone, but also the fact that Detroit isn't very good offensively in the opponent's red zone. Now, Seattle, as I mentioned, has been incredibly inconsistent all year, beating playoff caliber teams and losing to teams that will be picking in the top 10. They have beaten some really good teams, and they have lost to some really bad teams. And I think the best example of that is they lost to the Chicago Bears a week ago, but just 3 weeks ago, they beat a really good, very hot 8-7 San Francisco 49ers team. So it really depends what Seahawks are going to get on the day. Sometimes Russell Wilson's hot, sometimes he's not. Sometimes the Seattle offense looks really good and looks really explosive, and other times it stalls out and looks really, really poor and looks like one of the lesser offenses in the NFL. And it really just depends what Seahawks team you're going to get any given Sunday. Not to mention, the Seahawks really haven't been all that good at home this year. I believe only having 2 or 3 wins at home, and the rest of their, 5 wins coming from the away games, but they are a better away team this year than they are a home team, and that is kind of weird for Seattle, as Seattle is usually one of the tougher places and one of the tougher environments for people to go and win in. Now, looking at the Detroit Lions, the Lions last week unfortunately dropped their 12th game of the season as they traveled to Atlanta to take on the now 7-8 Atlanta Falcons. The Lions played this game incredibly close and were 4 points and 9 yards away from winning this football game. And we all know the story. I've talked about it several days ago. Reeves Maven forced the fumble, and Tim Boyle gave the football right back to them with 9 yards to go, 4-point deficit. Tim Boyle made a poor decision, and that is what it is. And for yet another game, the Lions were close and they were competitive, but they just couldn't make the final play to get on that scoreboard, and they couldn't make the final play to just win the football game in a game that they really, really had an opportunity to win. Now, offensively, the Detroit Lions do not rank highly in any single category. The Detroit Lions ranked 23rd in offensive yardage gained this year, gaining 4,723 yards total. They do rank 15th, top half of the NFL in giveaways, only giving the football away 20 times this season, but that is the only statistic where they do rank higher than middle of the pack, as they rank 29th in scoring offense, averaging just 17.3 points per game. They rank 31st in third down conversions at just 33.9% of the time, and they are by far the worst red zone offense in the NFL, converting in the red zone at just 43.2% of the time. The offense has not been good this year. The offense hasn't been explosive. They haven't gotten big plays, and with the exception of the Arizona Cardinals game, they haven't had a really good game at all this season. And some of that's been with injuries, some of that's been with the quarterback rotation, some of that's been with Jared Goff not being comfortable early in the season, and some of it's improved throughout the season. It's gotten better as the season has gone on, but overall, the offense has been so inconsistent this season and really hasn't pulled their weight for this Detroit Lions franchise. Defensively, we are a little bit better, especially after the bye week and especially since we played the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Lions defense has been fairly good. The Lions currently on the NFL season ranked 27th in yards allowed, allowing 5,581 yards. They rank 23rd in takeaways, having 16 turnovers forced on the season. They rank 25th in points per game allowed, allowing 25.7 points per game. They rank 28th in the NFL in third down defense, allowing third down conversions 43.3% of the time, and they are ranking 30th in red zone defense, allowing red zone scoring at a 69.3% of the time. The Lions have been close and competitive all year, as we have talked about numerous times, and they have, over the past couple of weeks, played some really good football. Again, this was the, I think, 4th game since the bye week, 4th of their 5 losses, where it's been decided by a single score. It's been decided by, one play at the end of the football game to decide the winner or the loser. And the Lions this year just aren't the team that's going to pull through, and they are not the team that's going to be able to make that game-winning play consistently, especially when Tim Boyle is your starting quarterback. Good news for the Lions, though, this week. Jared Goff is returning from the COVID list. DeAndre Swift is also possibly returning as well, but unfortunately, as we talked about the other day, starting wide receiver Josh Reynolds will not be playing in Sunday's football game, as he did test positive for COVID-19, and Jared Goff will not have his number one weapon on the field as they travel to Seattle in one of the more hostile environments in the NFL. Now, even firmly out of the playoff race, the Detroit Lions are just that team that will not go away. They are going to bug the other team, and they are going to keep games incredibly close and make this other team, make Seattle and make Green Bay next week work for every inch and every point that they put on the board. I expect this game to be a very gritty, hard-fought battle, probably a low-scoring affair where you're going to see, very similarly to last week, 20, 21 points put on the board. I wouldn't be surprised if this game once again ends 20-17, 20-16 within 4-5 points of each other. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was just a low-scoring, gritty football game where neither team really is great at scoring. Neither team can really convert on all of their chances to take a commanding lead. And both teams at the very end are fighting for this victory and one of their final victories on the season. But with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching. Until next time, and as always, go Lions!